Good morning, USA. Recently, I was driving and I was pulled over by two officers in one unmarked car. I saw the guy had his radar pointed out the window. I really didn't think too much of it. So I get some more down the road, about a good quarter-mile away. Next thing you know, they're behind me. No lights, no anything. So I'm driving. I get about a half a mile away from where they originally were. They turn their lights on. I pull over and they do, license and registration. The usual. So, what was a little disarming about the situation was, not only were they in an unmarked car, they didn't have police uniforms on. It was plain clothes cops, supposedly. He got up the car. The one officer, he just had on a vest. The back of it said police, and it said police right here. At no point in time did I ever see a badge. I never saw a name tag. And I had to question now the validity of these two people. Were they actually police officers? Now, how am I really to know if they're actually police officers? They were in the unmarked car and they turned on their lights. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody knows the routine. Car, you see the red and blue lights, you pull over. Asked for my license and registration, I kicked it out. Gave it to him. And it took a little while. I was pulled over about good 10-15 minutes. And he asked me, did I have any warrants or court appearances I was supposed to make because it was taking so long. I said no. Shot the breeze. He asked me a couple questions. Still a little leery on, how valid they were. Because let's say I go into a hospital and I'm about to operate on a person and I'm wearing the clothes I'm wearing now. And that person, they're looking up at me like, oh, is this guy a doctor? I don't want this guy to operate on me. He looks like he just came on. He looks like any Joe off the street. I don't want this guy cutting. I don't want my life to be in this man's hands. And I have to question now whether those two are actually police. And the sad part about it is, it happens. People pull people over, and then you hear later on the news that they weren't actually police. They were people that like to dress up like police or act like they're police. And I don't know if it's some kind of psychological problem, if they didn't get into the academy, they couldn't make it, and they just like to go out and pretend to be police. I don't know if they buy all this equipment to pull people over so they can get their information and maybe try to get their social security numbers or get credit cards. I don't know what kind of scam it is. But I would have to question also the practices of the police department. It was the Baltimore County Police Department in saying, well, I mean, how could I make for sure that these were actual police officers? Because I don't know. I don't see a badge. I have no name. The other officer never came to my side of the car, so I never really saw what that guy even looked like. And you don't want to make any sudden movements. I mean, as fake as they may have been, they sure had some real guns on them. I know that. So I don't want to go questioning some dudes and they don't be real, and next thing you know, he just killed me or something. They wasn't real in the first place, and who would really ever know? All they would say was the police pulled them over. But if any witnesses saw anything, all they would say was it was a plain white car. And you don't really have any more information than that to go off of. They don't have a number on their car. It has nothing distinguishable about them at all. So, if this is a practice of the Baltimore County Police Department, I want to know, how are you able to get away with this? And is it really necessary to have plain clothes officers? I can understand an unmarked car, but plain clothes officers doing traffic stings in residential neighborhoods, that just sounds a little fishy. That sounds a little awkward to me. So Another issue was when he pulled me over, he asked me did I know how fast I was going. I said, yeah, I knew how fast I was going, but I also told him that in our complex going around, there are no speed limit signs. And he said, well, sure there are. Of course there are speed limit signs. So I'm the one that's pulled over, so quite naturally I must be wrong. You're the guy with no badge, no type of information, but I'm wrong. But okay, so of course now I'm double checking myself, and I'm driving around. Sure enough, there are no speed limit signs within from where I live, where I took off from my vehicle to the end of our complex and back around. So how fast am I supposed to be going? If there are no speed limit signs, how would I know that I was even speeding? This would be my question to them. But of course, you ask this question, you tell them you gotta be wrong. Nobody wants to believe it. I just don't understand the situation. And what's so crazy about it is I was actually thankful that an actual real police officer arrived at the scene, because police like to do that. You can have one guy pulled over for, I was pulled over once because an officer thought I didn't have my seatbelt on, which I did, because my pops always told me to put my seatbelt on, and I don't want to die flying out the window. So I got my seatbelt on. They asked for, and then you clearly see I got my seatbelt on. So why still do you need my license and registration to know that I got my seatbelt on? Anyway, so he was checking my information, and another police car comes around, and I have no idea. I guess for extra backup in case I didn't have my seatbelt on. I don't know. So another actual police car pulls around, and I was happy to see him because it was in a real police car with real uniforms, and the officers gave my information back and told me to have a nice day. And I don't know what happened back there with those two. If the actual police asked those guys any questions, because quite naturally I'm off the hook. I took off, man. It was a little creepy. It was weird. It was unsettling, and it was unnerving. And I guess my question still is, if this is a practice of the Baltimore County Police Department, how are they able to get away with it, and why is this a policy? Good morning, USA.